Welcome to the deep dive. We've got this really interesting set of observations here labeled On Human Nature 0001 through 0001.
Yeah, fascinating stuff.
And today we're going to dive into them, really try and pull out the core truths about why people do what they do, especially, some of the less comfortable behaviors.
Right. And it's important to remember these aren't like a formal psychology textbook.
Yeah.
Think of them more as, well, raw observations, field notes almost.
And how we choose things.
Exactly. On choice, on competition, and crucially, on communication breakdown. And you'll see some themes pop up again and again.
Okay, like what should we listen for?
Well, definitely how we model behavior off others.
Right.
Also, how much we try to avoid uncertainty and the real cost of passive aggression. That one's big.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. Source 00001. This one seems foundational, right? About basic motivation.
It really is. It suggests that fundamentally we're driven either by wanting to be like someone
Right. Imitation.
or, just as powerfully, wanting to be not like someone else.
Right.
Reaction.
So it's always relational, based on others.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
We're kind of reactive machines in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Without a clear model, what do?
Good question.
The source suggests that real, wide-open freedom, it's uncertain. And that uncertainty is scary.
So we avoid it.
We avoid it. We default to models, things we picked up from family, culture, our ideas about how other people think.
So we're not just modeling simple stuff like tying shoes. We're modeling everything, our whole way of being.
Pretty much. That's the argument.
But wait, if all our choices are based on these inherited or reactive models, doesn't that kind of question free will? Sounds a bit deterministic.
It definitely leans that way. The sources argue that, yeah, most choices come from these existing frameworks. It's this idea, you hear it in philosophy sometimes, the escape from freedom.
The escape from freedom.
Yeah, instead of embracing that huge, terrifying, unpredictable space where anything could happen.
Which sounds exciting, but maybe also paralyzing.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Paralyzing, because it's uncertain. So people run toward structure, towards a model. Even if that model involves conflict, it's still certain conflict.
Wow, okay. That's a heavy start. So we're all kind of running on these pre-programmed tracks to avoid scary freedom.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
Now let's get into the juicy part. What happens when these models clash? Competition. What happens when someone you know succeeds? Someone in your circle?
Ah, yes. This is where it gets, well, uncomfortable. We shift to close quarters competition. And the source material here is pretty blunt, honestly.
How so?
It suggests most people deep down kind of want others to fail.
Seriously? Fail?
Especially people they know personally, colleagues, friends, even family sometimes. That desire is strongest when it's close to home.
Okay, I get general competitiveness, but why specifically the people closest to us? Why is that reaction, mandatory?
Because their success, seen through this competitive filter, feels like a one-up.
Okay, like they've just scored points against you.
Precisely. If someone you see is comparable, same environment, maybe similar starting point, suddenly leaps ahead in status or money, or even just seems happier, it doesn't just look like their success.
It looks like your failure. Or your stagnation.
Exactly. It disrupts your sense of balance. And suddenly you're in a competition, whether you wanted to be or not. You feel this pressure to even the score.
Or make their score lower.
Which is often easier, right? Building yourself up takes effort.
And this leads to that line in source 0005. The easiest way to appear taller is to cut people down.
It's simple social physics, isn't it? Defamation, gossip, subtle sabotage. They're quick tools. Low effort, high perceived impact on relative status.
Quick and dirty.
And the sources warn, even if someone manages to hide that envy, plaster on a smile, the feeling doesn't just vanish.
It comes out some other way?
Source 000 and Inner says exactly that. If they don't show envy, they'll act it out. Passively? Maybe. Insidiously. But that pressure finds an outlet.
So this envy, it's not just about hurt feelings for the person who succeeded. There's a bigger cost. Source 0008 links it back to freedom again.
Yes, this is really key. Jealousy and envy aren't just emotions floating in the ether. They actively impinge on freedom. Everyone's freedom.
How so?
Well, the successful person is less free.
Right.
And they might feel they have to watch their back, be more cautious, spend energy defending themselves. Their freedom to just be is restricted.
Okay, that makes sense.
But maybe even more importantly, the envious person is trapped too. They're not free either, because their actions are now dictated purely by reaction.
They're controlled by someone else's success.
Entirely. They're imprisoned by that need to compete, to tear down. Their focus isn't internal anymore. It's locked onto the other person.
That makes sense. It explains why the sources seem so focused on the subtle stuff, the hidden conflicts.
Exactly. If open competition is too risky or too
The
obvious.
fight goes underground.
Precisely. Which brings us straight to passive aggression. And that chilling line from source 0003. Sometimes what people don't do is worse than what they do.
Oof. Okay, let's unpack that. Why is not doing something potentially worse?
Well, the sources are actually quite radical here. One makes the claim, a very strong claim, that passive aggression is often worse than physical aggression.
Worse than physical. Wow. That sounds extreme. How do they justify that?
It boils down to duration and psychological toxicity. Physical aggression, it happens. It's usually immediate. There's a start, middle, and end. Your system can process it, hopefully recover.
Okay. Clear cause and effect.
Passive aggression, though, it's designed to be ambiguous, unclear. It stretches out over time and invites rumination.
Rumination, you mean like replaying it over and over in your head?
Exactly. The victim is left wondering, did that really happen? Am I imagining this? What did that silence mean? You replay the ambiguous slight, the missed reply, the deliberate avoidance, endlessly.
And that's the long-term damage. This is where that term psychic free radicals comes from, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. From source 0004. A powerful metaphor. Think of oxidative stress in the body, free radicals causing damage. Psychic free radicals are the psychological equivalent.
Created by unresolved, ambiguous conflict.
Fueled by that rumination, yes. They're toxic, destabilizing mental bits. And they don't just harm the person on the receiving end. They pollute the environment, the sort of collective unconscious. They raise the general anxiety level.
So it's like a slow poisoning. Instead of a quick punch, it's psychological contamination from avoided conversations.
That's a good way to put it. The silent treatment, the subtle digs, they poison the well.
Can you give a practical example? Like, what does that poisoning feel like day to day? Is it just constant low-level anxiety?
That's a big part of it. Always wondering, am I crazy or is this person intentionally messing with me? The goal isn't necessarily a big blow-up.
It's sustained stress?
Sustained low-grade stress, designed to make the target doubt their own reality, their emotional safety. The aggressor gets to inflict harm while keeping their hands clean, Plausible deniability.
And the victim just burns mental energy trying to figure it out.
That's the cost. That's the psychic free radical doing its work. The energy drain.
And silence is a major weapon here. Avoidance. Source 0006 had that bit about if people stop talking to you.
Yeah, that one hits hard. It means they've likely already talked about you to other people.
So the conversation didn't stop, it just moved.
It's moved out of your hearing. The silence you experience is just the aftermath. The decision about you or your status has already been made elsewhere, without your input.
That confirms that awful feeling of being managed, not communicated with.
It does. And then there's the ultimate silent weapon, the silent treatment itself. Source 0007 breaks it down.
Right, it means one of two things.
Either you did something you weren't supposed to, crossed a clear line, violated a rule.
Okay, a specific action.
Or, and this is crucial, you are being someone you're not supposed to be.
Not what you did, but who you are.
Exactly. The first one is maybe about fixing a mistake. The second one, that's identity control.
Identity control, how does that work?
If the silent treatment is about you being someone you're not supposed to be, it means the other person is trying to force you back into a box, back into a role or a model they find comfortable, predictable.
Like trying to keep a friend in their old high school role, even after they've grown, or keeping a colleague down.
Yes. It's an attempt to squash the uncertainty you represent by changing or challenging the established model. The silence is an attack on your freedom to be that new person. It's trying to force you back into constraint because they need that constraint for their own stability.
Okay, wow. So let's try and tie this all together. The basic drive is modeling to avoid freedom's uncertainty. Conflict arises from envy when models clash, and the weapon of choice is often passive aggression, especially silence.
That's a good summary.
How does all this emotional, social maneuvering actually play out inside us? Like chemically, what's the rock bottom motivation here?
Well, if you zoom out, the sources frame human nature quite starkly as a battle of neurotransmitters.
A chemical battle.
Yeah. Not just feelings, but biochemistry. It's described as a tit-for-tat for cortisol attacks.
Cortisol, the stress hormone. So tit for tat stress attacks.
Basically, yes. Every time someone stresses you out, you incur this kind of cortisol debt. And the urge for revenge, chemically speaking, is about repaying that debt. inflicting stress back to balance the books, biochemically.
So getting even is literally about trying to mess with their brain chemistry to make ours feel better. What's the raw, selfish thought behind that chemical revenge?
The sources describe it basically as, you made me feel bad, stressed me out, lowered my dopamine or serotonin, and now I'm going to block yours so I can feel better, maybe even claim those good chemicals for myself.
And passive aggression, the silence, the avoidance, that's the tool for blocking their dopamine and serotonin.
It's presented as a primary mechanism, yes, a selfish neurochemical tactic. The aggressor tries to boost their own reward system by denying the victim the good feelings, the stabilization that come from normal, positive social connection.
That really explains why getting the cold shoulder or being ignored feels so draining, so bad. It's literally starving you of social chemical rewards.
That seems to be the implication.
And we even have a modern term that fits perfectly, ghosting.
Yes. The sources specifically mention ghosting. It's held up as a prime example of passive aggression used precisely for this neurochemical blocking.
How so?
By cutting contact without explanation, you deny the other person everything. Closure, the dopamine hit from a response, the serotonin from a stable connection. Gone. It's the perfect, deniable delivery system for that passive-aggressive chemical vengeance.
Man, we started way back with the fear of freedom, and we've ended up at chemical warfare waged through silence. It really paints a picture of human behavior as, well, deeply rooted in self-protection, trying to grab certainty, avoid that scary freedom.
That's the thread running through it all. So just to quickly wrap up the main takeaways for you, remember, we seem to be driven by modeling and this deep aversion to true, uncertain freedom.
Got it. Model or react. Avoid uncertainty.
When those models get challenged, envy and competition often flare up. And the go-to weapon, frequently, is passive aggression. Using ambiguity, using silence.
Which creates those psychic free radicals, the long-term damage.
Exactly. So just understanding these mechanics, the modeling, the envy, the biochemical side of conflict, that's really the first step. It helps you navigate it, maybe protect yourself a bit better.
Powerful stuff, especially when you think how much energy we spend on these dynamics. Okay, so here's something for you, the listener, to chew on after this deep dive. If so many of our choices really are built on these borrowed models, and if we are fundamentally trying to escape the uncertainty of real freedom, then how much of the resentment we feel towards others, that jealousy, that competitive urge, how much of that is actually just misplaced fear? Fear of the freedom we aren't claiming for ourselves.
That's a deep question.
Yeah. Think about your own models. What's really driving you? Is it genuine desire? Or is it just reacting against or imitating what's around you? Something to think about. That's what we'll leave you with today.